And a big welcome once again, folks, at the top of the hour. I'm Mark Johnston, your host here for VID5 Conference, and I want to thank our wonderful, generous sponsors at Laurentian Bank Securities. As we wind down the day, one would say we're winding down in beauty. We have the great pleasure to welcome Francois Perron, who is the president and CEO of Lucky Minerals. Francois, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Mark. And as I said a little bit earlier, I hope that those of you that are sticking it out and joining at the end of the day will be rewarded with what I hope will be one of the most exciting stories in the next 12 months. Without further ado, let me just jump right into Lucky Minerals. We're a company that's doing gold discovery in Ecuador. And I will have forward-looking statements. I see safe harbor. What's important is I only want to talk about one thing today. This is called Wayka. It's a new prospect that we've identified in Ecuador. It's a high sulfidation epithermal system. These are gold-bearing systems. We've discovered it and we've trenched it. We've been able to announce some pretty spectacular results that I'll be sharing with you. And we're going to be drilling this in the first quarter. So we're just doing a little bit of the infrastructure and some of the issues around that from a logistics. And I have other prospects called Macuche, Elgaro, some other ones. I'm not going to talk about them today. I only want to talk to you about what I'm going to drill. And right now, the important thing from my perspective is 100% of our effort is going to Wayka. You'll see why it's so important in our mind. But first, a few words about Ecuador. I think that Ecuador's time has come. The geology that's allowed Peru and Colombia to have a huge mining industry exists in Ecuador, and Ecuador hasn't been open to mining as it has been in the last 10 years. And that's allowed a lot of the majors to gain confidence and come into the country. You see the list up there, and everybody points to, Lundin Gold has been able to put Fruta del Norte, a more than $500 million US project, into production. So if people ask me, can things get done in Ecuador? I don't answer, well, maybe, or this or that. No, look at the reality. A world-class gold project was built in the last 24 months, and that tells you things are getting done in Ecuador. And that's why the majors are here, and the geology is very sound. And the Lundin Gold put into production under the populist regime. Since the last election, Guillermo Lasso has even been more pro-mining as an engine of creating new jobs in the country. And I would say he's pro-mining, but pro-responsible, sustainable mining. And I think that's just the way the business has to be run in the 21st century. So I think that, there's a lot of good potential out there. I can tell you, though, that the tone coming from Quito is very, very much transparency, responsibility. But yes, we want development and we want to create jobs and bring people into a modern economy. And so that is a very strong supporting factor in the work we do. We are exclusively in Ecuador right now. The orange or yellow shape in the middle there is our concession. We're in the middle of very, very significant tectonic activity. That's usually really good to define deposits. A lot of world-class deposits exist within 80 kilometers of where we are. Our concessions, represent 550 square kilometers. That's a huge land package, and we're just starting to scratch away at it. But I think that, what we're seeing is clear evidence that there's good, solid geologic potential. And moving closer up into our concessions, you can see I'm going to talk about Wayka. The other little red stars are potential targets, or in the case of El Mozo, it's a deposit. It doesn't belong to us, but there are other targets. Wayka is the main event. I just want to highlight, though, you see the indent there and below at the bottom where there's little rectangles cut out. These are, in the case up top, it's the SHINCATA River. There's been alluvial gold mining there for the last 400 years. So there's no doubt there's gold in them there hills. Same thing at the bottom there in our concessions down there. There've been carved out some of the historic alluvial gold concessions that are there. This area is endowed with gold. So we're just looking for it, and I think we found it. So our initial discovery came from a grab sample at surface. And what was important there, we'd been exploring around. We had a partnership with a major that was looking for a copper gold porphyry system. And we had started to look for the gold potential, and we found a 1 gram outcrop. And when we realized that this was part of a volcanic belt and that we had found vuggy silica at the surface, we just kind of dropped everything and went over there, because when you have a mineralized system with vuggy silica, it's called an epithermal system, high sulfidation epithermal. We went out there and started mapping the volcanics, which here they're mapped in purple. What's important is just the scale of this, and now we've been able to do enough work. And what I want to really reiterate to everybody is the fact that this is a brand new discovery. There is no database, no drill holes, no sampling. This is brand new, boots on the ground. Why? You can see on the left-hand side, there isn't very much outcrop availability. Over all our concessions, like in areas like this one, if you can see where they're working, and we grabbed the sample at 2.9 grams right there, but it's like there isn't that much outcrop availability. You can't see it, but it's not that deep. It's about 1 meter deep, the topsoil on top of it. So when you get there, you can do some work on it. So once we realized we had the mineralized structure, and you can see Wayka and the purple from the previous map superimposed on the geophysics, we recompiled the geophysics that the former partner had done on Emma and El Buitre, and they were looking at the mag highs, and then we see this rupture in the mag where Wayka is, and that tells you there's fluids that came up and destroyed all of the magnetism there, and it's a deep-seated structure, and it runs clear across the 3 kilometers that this survey was done. So I have a deep-rooted system that's got hydrothermal fluids. This is not just the fantasy of the geologist, it's confirmed with the surface evidence. So this is legitimately, like that fault you see where it says Wayka on the bottom part is the important thing that, you know, confirmed that we're on the right track. And then I'm going to apologize for 2 seconds of geology, but what is a high sulfidation epithermal gold system? The textbook way to approach it is understand that, and you'll see it on the left-hand side, there's a rectangle. Right beside that is that feeder that comes up. That feeder is usually well above a copper gold porphyry system, much lower down in the crust. And what this is usually there's like multiple events, but what the gold-bearing events are carried in very, very acidic gases and fluids. I mean 0.5 of a pH of 0.5. And that, as it comes up, it seeps into the country rock. And the typical model to do this exploration is then to follow, you see the rectangle on the left-hand side. From the center of the feeder, you get the leach silicic alteration. And as you move further away, you get different kinds. So the textbook approach is to map the alteration, and that'll get you to focus in on where the feeders are. In our case, we've been very fortunate. We took all the samples we took, we re-assayed them from a mineral perspective to get this alteration envelope. And so what we have here is the yellow and orange, okay, are the places where we have that high temperature, either advanced argillic or leached silicic alteration. Where we have that is usually where we'd have gold. And I mean, here in this slide, there's some gold grades. I'll get to those in a minute. Today, right now, what I want you to focus on is that we have this high temperature stuff, both at the very bottom, and it extends all the way to the top, so that the footprint of the alteration system probably extends more than 2 kilometers from top to bottom. And you see the scale of 500 meters down there. And it's probably more than 1.5 kilometers wide, and it's still open in 3 directions. This is an incredibly powerful system where we got a lot of ground to cover. There's likely a lot of mineralization around this. So the next step, once you've defined the alteration, is to do trenching, geophysics, and soils. And the trenching you'll see in a minute. The geophysics was completed as of yesterday. The soils are going to be completed as of tomorrow, I think, or this week, and we'll get the results back from the lab in a couple of weeks. And with that, combined with what we find in the trenching, we should have really good targets. This presentation hasn't been up to, was this slide and this concept, okay, weren't informed by the stuff I got in the trenches. So I'll come back to what we got in the trenches. But just to give you a sense of why I'm so excited and think that we're onto a big system, I'll compare it to the footprint of the alteration of some major deposits. Yanacocha is a deposit in Peru that produces more than 1 million ounces a year. It's a joint venture between and controlled and operated by Newmont and Buenaventura. Okay, that's, if you look in this particular one, the high temperature stuff I was referring to, the silicic and advanced argillic is the red and the orange. Footprint of that at Yanacocha is 6 kilometers by 5, roughly. And what's important from my perspective is this is not what they found at surface. This is the projection of the whole thing projected to surface. So it's not what poked out. Okay, so it's more about looking at the overall footprint of the thing. And once we drill into it, we'll have a sense as how it connects below surface. A deposit like Perron, and for those of you that were in Canada, that used to belong to Arequipa, and that was bought out by Barrick, and it's 7 million ounces. It's 2 kilometers by 1.5, roughly. We have a similar kind of footprint at surface. Remember, the other guys that I'm showing there, this is what they have as the total deposit. I'm showing for Wayka only what we have at surface. I don't know what it looks like down below. So you can say I only have a 2-dimensional discovery. I'll live with that if once you see what I have in the trenches. So I'm happy to be exploring in a system that's very large because it has the potential to have large scale resources. So the next step is to go and do some trenching. We have done trenching in 3 areas. I'm going to call it the upper, middle, and lower. The really, really good stuff occurred in the middle area. So I'm going to focus on that first. But again, bear in mind that, the lower area, and I'll show you just a second. The first trenching was done in the lower area at trench 1. And the bonanza grade that we hit is in trench 6, where the first time we assayed it, we got 7 meters at 8 grams. Turns out that the total area that's mineralized, because it was still open, is more like 12 meters at 6 grams. So this is world-class intercepts. So I'm really happy about that. If you look at the picture, you can see trench 5 and 6 appear to line up. So the next step, once we hit the high grade in trench 6, is to connect the two. And I mean, trench 5 is no slouch. I had 10 meters of 0.38 grams. If I didn't have something like trench 6, I'd say 10 meters of 0.38 is a win. Why do I say that? Usually if I have, and things like Perron and Yanacocha are deposits that are averaging 1 to 1.5 grams. And for those kinds of deposits, usually the cutoff is 0.3 grams. So anything above 0.3 from an explorationist point of view is a win. And I've got that. But I mean, T6 had up to 26 grams, which means that that's really good for your average. So we expanded that, and connecting the two, what did we get? We got 61 meters at 1.6 grams. This is what mines mine, and they're very happy when they get this kind of intercept. So I'm very, very pleased. The way the mineralization is expressing itself, the feeders come up. The host rock in this particular area is either metagranites or schists, so the mineralization doesn't seep for hundreds of meters. Okay, it might lower down, but at surface, this is what we're seeing. And on that basis, you get an area with mineralization, then it goes to nothing for a bit, then another structure, then it goes to nothing. Are they parallel or not? We're still doing trenching. It's really hard to measure these things when, you know, the structure is created by acidic digestion so that the edges aren't crisp. So we're doing cross trenches to you know, get the right kind of vector for these things. And so overall, though, on this particular slide, I have this structures A, B, and C, and I'll summarize them in a bit. But pay attention to the fact that, you know, there's a pattern over 61 meters, a structure, 15 to 20 meters, a structure, 10 to 15 meters, a structure. Are there more? Well, I have two trenches, T10 and 11, that are 70 meters from that, and they carry gold. So in that respect, I think that we're in a good position. So you can see, first of all, the topmost structure A carried 0.46 across 9 meters. Then I had like 6.6 across 12. And the southernmost one had 2.4 across 7 meters. And I think it's still, we're not out of it yet. We hadn't finished. T10 and 11 show 2.8 and 1.1, both over 2 meters. So there's potential for multiple structures that stack up. And I know that at least in one place, like we sampled 61 meters, and it gave us 1.6 grams, which to me is a world-class discovery. In 2 dimensions, I agree. And then my biggest challenge when I talk about this discovery is people saying, well, it's just trenching. I'll wait till you drill it. And I want you to pay attention to the way we're trenching. It's called systematic sampling. We're taking rock saws. We're sawing down a couple of approximately 8 centimeters into the rock. This is giving us something representative. Each meter of the 61 meters, okay, the average was 8 kilos of rock. So this is not like I just chipped away at whatever I liked. It's systematic. It's representative. From my view and from a geologist's perspective, from a 43101 perspective, this is a horizontal drill hole, and that's what it looks like in the rock. So I am comfortable saying it's a discovery. We still have work to do. I don't know how big it is, but I know it exists for real. So it's no longer I'm exploring and I have a concept. I have a lot of land in Ecuador and there's gold in the hills. No, we found it and we're going to drill it. And that's why it's so exciting. 700 meters south of the central area with the high grade, we've got some hits, okay? And it started with obviously T1, 3 grams over 4 meters. And then we followed the breccia along to see how continuous they were. And this one was mineralized 1.9 over 27 meters. And then there's mineralizations on both sides, but not like hundreds of meters. You know, probably 3 to 10 meters on each side. So that's fine. So we're having another mineralized area. This is 700 meters south. So, and what's important is if you go back to where I was showing, you know, the alteration areas, the whole area between the middle area and this area has high temperature or hot kind of alteration. So there's potential for more feeders. We'll figure it out. We know what these feeders look like. We've cut 5 of them. So we're going to have a fingerprint that we're going to use with the soils and the geophysics. And, you know, it's like we have, you can see there's not that much outcrop, but there's a lot of stuff going on underneath. So we should be able to zero in on where we want to drill. Obviously, I know where I'm going to start. What's even more interesting is to the north, there's another area where we hit 1.2 grams over 10 meters. And is that the end of that system? The answer is no. It's what we had time to do, okay? I'm actually really, really proud to be part of a team that's doing this kind of work this quickly. The name of this prospect, Wayka, was attributed to this by the team in March of this year. And we're going to drill it in March of next year, our first quarter of next year. So within 12 months to go from nothing has ever been done on this area from a geologic perspective and a gold perspective to be in a position to have not like it's confirmed a discovery of a mineralized system and done enough groundwork to justify drilling. And it's not drilling to test a concept, it's a drilling to follow up a gold discovery. So this is the fun part of exploration. And I need to take a pause to remind everybody that this is exploration in the 21st century. You can't do it discreetly. You can't sneak in there. People know what we're doing, and we're proud of it. Okay, and we're not trying to hide anything. We're being very, very keen to communicate and make people understand. We operate to a very high level of standard. We have good communications. There are going to be important issues that the people that live around the project area care about. And, you know, like you see the pictures, we're high up in the mountains. The water comes off of the mountains. It's captured in these canals. It goes to farms. So we can't operate in a vacuum and ignore that kind of thing. We put up that bridge because one of the people said, you know, when you cross it with your mules, you're damaging the canals. No problem. We'll build the bridge. And, you know, water is going to continue to be a priority for us, and it's very important. So I want to make sure you understand that, you know, I think I'm in a position to have a very world-class kind of deposit. And on that basis, the whole team, we're working to making sure we have the base solid and the stakeholders involved, and that we become aware of what they're doing. And, you know, the kind of things we do, it's not because we're an exploration company that we can't do things. I mean, I'm not there to spend money and build new schools. Not yet. That's not what we should be doing. But you don't get trust by not being there. So I have a team of 25 colleagues down there. Out of the 25, 2 of them are what I would call social engineers. And they socialize all of our work so that we're constantly in contact with the communities, telling them what kind of work we're doing, the level and standard of our work. And it's very important. It's a project for the 21st century. It's part of who we are. And I'm proud of the work that's being done on that basis. So it's just good business as well, but it's an important part. So I think that, you know, exploration success, you need a pipeline. Right now, the problem is the top of my pipeline is Wayka, and it's going to see 2,000 to 3,000 meters of drilling. And what's important with that is, you know, I would have a diversified portfolio and I drill different targets. Right now, with the strength of what I found at Wayka, I have 2 or 3 areas that each one could be big enough to do something. It doesn't mean I'm going to forget places like Macucho or Elgaro. They both have what I look for, which is like systemic scale. Okay, so both Macuche and Elgaro are huge targets, and we have work to do on those. It's just that it's not like at Wayka where it sticks out at surface. I mean, at Macuche, I have 20 meters at 0.38 grams. That's a huge discovery in itself, but it doesn't beat what I got at Wayka. If I'm going to spend drilling dollars near term, that's where it's going to go. So right now, the plan, we've been doing systematic sampling at the trenches. We have more trenches leading up to the targeting and drilling phases. So that's ongoing. The geophysics will be complete. I need the compilation to get done. We're going to overlay that with the soils. And remember, there's only about a meter. So if we've done a very, very tight grid, that should pick up most of the feeders that are in there. And on that basis, I think that, you know, we'll have a good idea of how to target things, at least based on what we're seeing at surface. And then once we get into it, you know, we'll start by drilling in, and then, you know, we'll get the lay of the discovery in 3 dimension. And once we have that, we'll be able to expand. So as far as the company's concerned, well, I'm clearly the promoter. I think what's important is to realize that I have like a very experienced geologist with Victor Jaramillo, and Victor's been doing this for, I've put 30 years here. He might have a little bit more than that. In the Andes, he's been part of several discoveries. He understands these kinds of systems. He's based in Vancouver and has worked up and down the Cordilleras. So I think that that's a very good add. And the next key piece is, or partner, is Santiago Yepes. He's the country manager, and it's been like an important thing for us is right now 90% of our employees, like the 25 people in the team down there, are all Ecuadorianos or Ecuadorians, sorry. And Santiago's the leadership of that. He's led the state exploration company. He's been the president of the Chamber of Mines. He's extremely well connected, but it's not just connections. It's about knowing how to do things the Ecuadorian way. And I think that that's leading us to success. So I'm very pleased to be working with these gentlemen. You'd be surprised. I also have a board of directors, mixture of geology and finance. Still a relatively small board. I think that, realistically, we have a market cap that's less than $50 million, much less than that right now. I think that as we put more meat on the bone, I'll be able to, with the support of shareholders and the other board members, will beef up and add depth to the board. I'm not in a rush myself, okay? I think we're a very small company, very lean, and it's still very early days, but there'll be a time where that's going to improve. I have a capital structure. Right now, I have 126 million shares out. I have enough money in the till to get to the drilling part. I can't do it forever. But to answer the usual question about when do I run out of money, the question becomes, I don't know. If I get good success at the drilling, I have $17 million of warrants that are in the money. So it's like, here's the list of the warrants I have. There's 106 of them, 106 million of them. And if they kick into the money, okay, and I have a lot of them at 15 cents, I'm going to get between 10 and $15 million from that. So it's stay tuned. I don't know how much funding I'm going to need, but understand that if I'm drilling an inferred resource and it's close to surface, I can probably get a multi-million, and I'm talking conceptually here, okay, so we have a lot of work to do to understand, but conceptually, on average, these kind of deposits, if it is there, it would take me probably 30,000 meters to get a sense of the size of the inferred and below, at least the shallow part. That's about $10 million worth of drilling. I have $17 million of face value in the warrants right now. So I'm not that far from being in a position where, honestly, I might need one or two financings, but I don't know how many, and I don't know how often, because I have enough money to get going. I'm going to structure things to stretch that out, and we're going to get the drill turning on this, and then we'll see where it goes. But if I can get, like I got in Trench 14, which I didn't mention to you guys, but if I get another 8 meter or 9 meters at 8 grams, okay, if I get more of that kind of stuff, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to stay where I am now. So it's like, we'll see. But this is part of the excitement in the company. And, it's very important. I wonder, so why should you invest? I mean, I'm going to tell you, we have a focused management team, and everybody tells you that. We're in Ecuador, and there's pluses and minuses. Okay, I think that the minuses are less minus than they've been in many years. So we're in the right time to be in a place like Ecuador, and it's the right place. This is one of the it's one of the few places where we haven't deployed modern knowledge to some very, very minerally endowed geology. I mean, we know a lot about high sulfidation epithermal deposits. So the guys are coming up and looking at it, and I'm involving different consultants. They're looking at it. They know what they're looking for, and they're pretty excited about the whole thing. So what's important is we're in the right place, the right time, and it's no longer a concept stock. We're at that point where we've gone from discovery. Now I'm going to find out how big it is. If it's there, it's going to be very exciting because ounces will start to pile up quickly. I'm not drilling really long holes. I'm going to drill short holes, and these holes will provide ounces. And the market figures out pretty quick about whether or not this is going to turn out to have a lot of ounces. If it does, every drill hole you do for a while is incredibly accretive to shareholder value. And that's the part we're entering. So it's like when the drill starts turning, as soon as these holes come back mineralized, the game is completely different, because there's still a level of, I don't know what you have at surface, how representative it is. As soon as I drill underneath it, it's game on. So if you want to speculate in a junior exploration company, ideally you find one that's got a proven idea that you've got mineralization and it's about to step into drilling phase where you're going to start to grow and understand how big it is. So, I mean, I'm not guaranteeing, because there's only one way to find out. We'll bring the truth machine onto these things. But if it's there, it's going to go quickly. So it's worth keeping an eye on this. I think right now you're going to get more information from the trenching, and that's fine. But remember, I'm going to be drilling this probably in the first quarter. And as soon as I start drilling, it doesn't take long to get the stuff back from the labs. And on that basis, I think we'll be in good shape. So most of the team is based in Ecuador. Just to answer your question about COVID, it's everywhere in the world. So it's not like we've adapted. I've started to go down to the project area, but we have all the protocols in place. There's no problem there. And, we've had a couple of scares, but so far so good, but we're prepared and we have places to isolate people, and everybody's been vaccinated in the project area. 100% uptake. So it's like I think we're in good shape in that respect, and we're enjoying what we're doing. So this is the story of Lucky Minerals. You're invited to get in touch with me if you have other questions, you want to dig deeper into the geology. And for now, I'll turn it back over to you, Mark.
Francois, thank you very much. A well-planned and well-executed tour through the company. And I thank you very much for covering all points from your perspective. This is why we do what we do at VID5 conference, is to bring investors and people like yourself together so we can hear right from the source of the company. And I thought you did a fantastic job. I do want, as it's towards the end of the day, I thought maybe an efficient way to lift off in our Q&A session is just to ask for a quick review of maybe the top 3 reasons, Francois, that you really believe that the story at Lucky Minerals will be one of the strongest stories of 2022. What would your top 3 points be?
The top one is I'm at the point where I'm going to be going into discovery. Let me be clear. When one of these systems shows up, okay, this is, and I hate sounding super promoter, Arequipa went from nothing to $20, nearly $1 billion in the takeout after 9 drill holes.
Right.
Okay, 9 drill holes, because it had a large systemic signature. That was, back then, M&A was more aggressive. Gold price was less than $800 an ounce too. Okay, so let's be clear. This is not, you're going to make 50% upside on this. Okay? Right. If it's there, you're going to see multi-bagger on it. And I mean, I hate saying this publicly, but that's the game we're in.
Yes.
This is junior exploration, no longer a constant stop, and it's about to get drilled. If it's there, so I think this is the optimal risk reward point if you're going to speculate in junior exploration. Number 1. Number 2, because of the capital structure and the amount of warrants, there is dilution. It will reward early shareholders, but it will also remove the overhang of everybody playing the game. Oh, drill a bit, stop, raise. Drill a bit, stop, raise. Okay? I think that you keep an eye on the situation, but we should be in a position to navigate that quite elegantly. Okay, and I think that will set us apart, where everybody's expecting, oh, I'll wait for the next issue. You can wait for the next issue. I don't know when it is. So that's number 2. And number 3, I'm going to say it again, it's Ecuador, and these things ain't small. So it's, higher risk. It's Ecuador, but they're not small. And there's clear evidence that the majors are comfortable with going there.
Fair enough. Big potential, Francois. Thank you for that. It's a great encapsulated summary. Let's move on to some of our questions from the audience here. What are the biggest challenges, Francois, for 2022? And do you have the funding for this discovery? As you said, it's a big system you have on your hands.
I do not have funding for the whole thing. That's exploration. Mm-hmm. Okay, I have funding to get the drill turning.
Yes.
So my next goal, I'm the CEO and the promoter. My next goal will be to make sure I can keep the drills turning as long as I can. Okay, so I mean, ideally, in my dream, I set it up so that the drill never stops, and that's what I'm working towards. Okay, we're going to get the drill turning in the first quarter, and it's going to keep going.
Excellent. Good vision. Good way to start the new year. Thank you. Austin, one of our investor community members, asks, what other well-known, more advanced deposits, Francois, would you compare this to?
Well, I've given a couple of them in there, but like in Ecuador, there is one called Loma Larga that was bought out by Dundee Precious Metals. Mm-hmm. That's a high sulfidation system. To the south of us at higher altitude, and that's more like what we have because we're hosted in granites. So I don't know, but it'll be pretentious. But another high sulfidation system hosted in granites is Pascua-Lama. A very big deposit that's held by Barrick. Okay, and I mean, I don't know. Like you asked me what's similar to it, but this is a well-known type.
Yes.
But if you want other large high sulfidation systems, Pueblo Viejo that belongs to Barrick. So a lot of the world-class deposits, tier one assets, are high sulfidation system. In Dundee Precious Metals, Chelopech is a high sulfidation system. Okay? And that's why they are interested in Loma Larga. They understand these things. So it's a well-known and documented concept, and I hope that answers the question.
I believe so, Francois. Thank you for that. Let's move over to, of course, jurisdiction is a big part of any decision for an investor. What would your thoughts be, Francois, on the political climate in Ecuador? Are you getting any negative feedback from investors given what's going on in some of the neighboring countries in Latin America?
I would say that everything right now from a 40,000 foot view is super supportive.
Right.
Especially from the central government. Okay, that doesn't mean that regionally, locally at the project level, you shouldn't be very mindful. Okay, it's not a slam dunk. It's time to roll up your sleeves and prove to people, because, and I was reading a piece by another major company that just put into production a project in Panama, and the guy kind of said, you can't have big projects with zero impact.
Right.
Okay, so what's the political climate? Central government, it's night and day compared to what's going on elsewhere. I've met the vice minister. How can we help? What do you guys need? Et cetera, et cetera. At the local level, our biggest challenge and the key to success is to demonstrate that we will have a net positive impact on the communities where we operate.
Fair enough.
Okay. And so that still remains a big challenge, but that's the truth anywhere in the world in the 21st century. I can show you projects in Canada that are getting hung up the same way.
Yes.
I can show you projects everywhere. US, Canada, you have to work at it. It's now part of the business.
Fair enough. That's demystifying a myth there. I appreciate that very much, Francois, that realistic perspective. Kind of a two-pronged question here from two different viewers. How easy or difficult is it to get or bring in qualified labor in the jurisdiction of Ecuador? And secondly, what's the drilling cost per meter in that jurisdiction?
Excellent question. Getting people in Ecuador is actually it's a vibrant, and the demographics are good. There's good availability.
Okay.
And don't forget, there's a huge petroleum industry. So there are lots of geologies and geology faculties to draw from. So I would say it's not simple, but it's relatively doable. And as the project perks up and gains in girth, it gets easier to attract people to it. I've been able to, like, some of we're not in the business of being absolutely perfectly right. So we're like, a lot of the work we do is teamwork.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever we have like now we've entered a place where we've brought in a geochem specialist, and we intend to bring in one of the leading authorities once we start the drill turning, and we'll bring in structural analysts. These guys come in, but the core team is solid. It's about 25 people. When we get to drilling, we'll probably get to 30, 40 people.
Okay, great to know.
So, and the drilling cost, to come back to that question,
mm-hmm.
It's like, I would say I'm budgeting $250 to $300 per meter all in, which includes the geologist, the assay cost.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I said 30,000 meters would probably set me back 10 to 15 million.
Of course.
So that's the way things are.
Mm-hmm.
Incidentally, Ecuador's benched is like actually using the US dollar in the country. So all my costs are in US dollars.
Wow. Okay. Some solid math, though. Thank you for that, Francois. Let's, as we get closer to winding down towards the top of the hour here, Austin asks, have you been approached by one of the many surrounding large players in the surrounding areas yet? And if not, would you entertain that conversation, Francois?
I have about 3 million options. Yeah, I'll entertain. Okay. And I mean, are they aware of what's going on? You saw the trenches we put up.
Yes,
they're aware. Have they signed CAs? I haven't been in the CA business for now because I'm busy, getting the drilling started. And I think majors are more reluctant to come in really, really early. I'm fine with that. Okay. I've actually in the past had operations under my responsibility and stuff. Okay. Yes. It's a lot of work, and you build teams to do it. So it's like, let's first work on building the team. I've sold companies before where, like, the people, my shareholders, made a lot of money 2 years later because we did a shares for shares.
Of course.
Okay. And sometimes that's how you unlock value. So it's like, I used to be a fund manager. Okay. So to me, it's about making money, but it's also about doing things properly in country. Okay. I come from a small mining town.
Yes.
In northern Quebec. And it's also important to be, to do things properly. So it's not just about the money, but ultimately it's about making shareholders rewarded for the risk and, the efforts that they put into it.
Well, I appreciate that, Francois. I have to say, after a full day of sessions, you offer a great deal of excitement and potential moving into 2022. I heard the term, I believe, roll up your sleeves. This is an exciting time. There are early days happening right now, which can be a great opportunity of potential. So I really appreciate you bringing a full perspective on where the company is.
Thank you. Stay tuned. Put the ticker on your radar screen. You want to stay tuned on this one. It might move quickly.
That's great, Francois. You've been a great joy. One of our more interesting and high potential opportunities in our session today. So I'll thank you for your time. We look forward to watching where the company goes at Lucky Minerals. Thank you very much, Francois.
You're welcome.
All the best to you and yours for the holiday season. And as we turn our focus to winding down for day two, I want to really thank everyone for being a part of this whole process. This is what we do at VID5 conferences, is to bring an audience of investors together with companies to hear the story of those companies and where things might be going into the new year, especially at this time as we get closer to the end of 2021. So a real great appreciation for all the speakers that we've had today, our keynotes, and our featured companies. We're at that time of the day to wind down day two of our 3-day conference here at VID5. A huge thank you, of course, to our sponsor, Laurentian Bank Securities, for making this event happen, and to our partners in the venture. We have BTV, Newsfile, Crux Investor, First Phase, and Mining Network. Please let your friends and colleagues know as well to register, as we do have one full day to offer tomorrow on our final day. Tomorrow, our featured companies include Gold Royalty, very familiar to VID conferences, Elemental Resources, Origin Royalties, Azimut Exploration, Vox Royalties, Galway Metals, Prime Mining, Oh My Gold, and Star Peak Mining. A great lineup for tomorrow, folks. bringing investors and companies together is why we do what we do. And I want to thank you for being part of VID5. It's been a great 2 days so far with one more to go. We look forward to seeing you bright and early tomorrow morning. I'm your host, Mark Johnston, signing off for the day. My very best.